Hello, and welcome to the AB Relationships Podcast. Your hosts are Angela Lazariki, psychologist and psychotherapist, and Boris Hertzberg, psychoanalytic therapist and couples consultant. We talk about relationships and discuss some ways in which we can help each other in relating better. It is a space for sharing, discussing, and brainstorming common relationship difficulties, as well as real-life issues presented by our guests. Please note, this is not therapy, nor is it a substitute for therapy. Enjoy, as we are about to begin.
Okay, here we are. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next episode of AB Relationships Podcast. And hello to my co-host, Angela.
Hello, Boris. It's good to be here again.
Same here. Do you have any interesting fact or a quote for today to discuss before we introduce our guest?
I do. Yes, I do. I was looking at some statistics because I think, as you are finding out, I really like statistics. And I was looking at some which are from a 2014 survey, which was done by Mind. Mind is an organization which is very famous in the UK. It advocates for mental health, one of the big ones in the UK. I live in the UK. That's why I'm kind of looking at things that are relevant to where I live. So some of the numbers are rather grim, to be fair. Not that they were very surprising, but definitely not very encouraging. I'm just going to give you a few of the numbers because I don't want to throw numbers at people listening.
Especially grim numbers.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is basically focusing on England in the UK. So not, the other countries that are part of the UK, just England. And apparently in any given week in England, the number of people who are diagnosed with mixed anxiety and depression, so kind of like a mixed diagnosis, is 8 in 100, right? And that is in any given week. And I just thought that was a really, really high number. A high number for PTSD as well, for post-traumatic stress disorder. 4 in 100 people in any given week, again, was higher than I anticipated, especially for PTSD. And there is a disclaimer on the Mind website, if people are interested, that the true numbers are probably higher because the survey was given to a specific population of people, and it excludes people who are in hospitals, who are in prisons, who are homeless. So there's quite a large portion of the population which is not included in the survey, and they're suspecting that the numbers are actually higher. And I thought that was also making the numbers that I just mentioned even more grim than before. So not very good, not very happy statistics or encouraging statistics in this episode, but I just thought I would share what the numbers are. At least they were in 2014. I don't know if you'll agree with me, I'm suspecting that maybe those numbers are higher, not just in the UK or in England, but maybe globally currently.
Yes, I assume so. These numbers are pre-pandemic. And we also had some big regional conflicts. And since we are now exposed to all kinds of information, I would assume that people react to it with anxiety. So sometimes knowing things is good, but I think we also have to equip ourselves emotionally to deal with what we are seeing and how we deal with different kinds of information emotionally.
Yes, certainly. Maybe we need to put a disclaimer at the episode, not very encouraging numbers are being shared in this episode. You can skip to so-and-so minute if you want.
Yes. And you know what, just to connect it to the topic of relationships, when we are unable to deal with some unpleasant news or information, we tend to involve our partners in it, just to share, sometimes unconsciously share this emotional load. And that can explain why so many people suddenly burst or are unexpectedly mad at their partners without realizing it. they just can't deal with this emotional load. So again, I think it could be a good idea for us all to be conscious as to which information and to what data we expose ourselves, and whether we can deal with it. And if not, it can be postponed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Okay, so we've managed to make it positive somehow.
Yeah, well, we'll see how positive it is. Let's see. Maybe someone can give us some feedback after at the end of the episode in the comment section.
Yes, it could be a good question to pose. Maybe what lowers your anxiety? So if you're listening to us, please share with us. It would be interesting to read what helps you. So I think we are ready now to introduce our guest and to welcome Russ. Hello, Russ.
Good morning. Hello.
Hello. It's
Hello.
nice to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, what would you like to discuss, and what brought you here today?
Well, I've been married to my wife for 13 years. Almost 9 years ago, I walked in on her having an affair while my 2-year-old son was in his room crying and being neglected by my wife. My wife had told me that she felt disconnected, from me, but she had also blamed the affair on her drug and alcohol use. She has been in Narcotics Anonymous for the past 8+ years, almost 9 years in March, and is now on her 9th step, which is apparently making amends. I guess that I'm on the top of the list of people she needs to make amends to, I would hope, but has yet to do so. I'm wondering if I'm out of, should I accept her apology? We went to marriage counseling for a year. It took another year for me to not despise her. So a total of 2 years of really just disliking and not wanting to be around her and feeling angry all the time towards her. But now that she has gotten to this point in her recovery, I don't know whether or not I should even be willing to accept an apology, because it's been 9 years. And I've never really gotten one from her. I know she loves me, and I love her to death. I absolutely adore this woman. But should I just acknowledge, thank you for your apology, but it's kind of, too late?
Okay. Very, very nice. Very interesting points that you're raising there, Russ. First of all, I want to start by saying well done for going to couples counseling, because even though it might seem to some people like a no-brainer, well, obviously you're going to go, to most people in relationships, sadly, it is not a natural consequence or a good idea. So well done.
Thank you. I know a lot of people feel it's a deal breaker. But to be honest, at the time, I was terrified of raising 2 children on my own without her around. So that's part of the reason why I suggested couples counseling and Narcotics Anonymous and whatnot for her to try.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good idea. When we find ourselves in such painful and difficult situations, finding support and help ideally should be somewhere near the top of the list. Absolutely. Okay. And my question then after that comment is, how has it been since? Because I would like to try to understand what the journey has been, those, 8 or 9 years since then, to kind of give you any kind of feedback.
Well, it's been difficult. I do, to touch on your statistics from earlier, I do deal with bipolar depression and anxiety. So it's been a difficult journey to relate to her on a daily basis. It's taken a lot of individual counseling, and of course, the aforementioned couples counseling. So it's been difficult.
Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned before that you know that she loves you and that you love her too.
Yes.
Right. How is it that you know that she loves you?
Well, we say it to each other quite often. Granted, it can lose its meaning after a while, but I do believe her. The action she takes, she's very loving, affectionate, and the same that with me as the same as she is with our children. So she shows it, throughout the household.
Okay, beautiful.
I'm thinking.
Okay. I wanted to give some time to Boris so that I'm not kind of
And
talking over.
you gave me some time and I'm still thinking.
Okay. I mean, another thing that comes up for me just hearing you talk, Russ, is that is such a personal decision, right? Because I'm thinking about all a number of clients that I've had who find themselves in a situation of, do I accept an apology? Do I forgive? They're not the same thing. Obviously, I realize that, but they're both potentially really difficult situations, which we might feel a pressure to lean towards one side or the other many times. But ultimately, we cannot force these things, right? I cannot force myself to accept an apology if I don't feel ready, nor can
Right.
I pretend that everything is fine. And it's the same thing with forgiveness. That's why I kind of put them together, even though it's obviously not the same. So that's what's coming up for me.
Okay. Well, I will say that I have forgiven her. It has, otherwise we probably wouldn't be together, years later. I've made a conscious effort to forgive her, though, of course, I'll never forget, which leads into a bunch of different things about, always wondering whether or not there's going to be somebody, the propensity for just calling it quits on her part, my part, but mainly on her part. So I'm still afraid that she is going to leave at some point. But yes, I have forgiven. I just not sure if accepting an apology, a long overdue apology, is necessary at this point.
Okay.
Russ, obviously, we are not in therapeutic setting. We are just discussing things between us to understand them on a deeper level. But just to ask you to have a better understanding, how has your condition changed during this last 9 years after you found out that your wife had an affair?
Well, that's kind of difficult to talk about at times. I'll do my best. Of course, being bipolar, there's the depression part of it, but at times I've found that I was suicidal, not wanting to, continue without my marriage. If this woman wasn't part of my life, I essentially wanted to just end it all. So it's definitely affected more deeply, over time.
Yeah.
It sounds like she's very important to you, your wife.
Absolutely. I fell in love with her the moment I saw her at her sister's wedding in 2007.
Wow. Okay. Beautiful.
Angela, to turn it to you, I'm thinking about this definitely a traumatic moment of someone revealing that his wife or her husband, or no matter what's the kind of relationship between them, that they found their significant other with someone else. Obviously, it brings the initial shock. It's something that you don't expect to discover. And then it goes to our mechanisms of dealing with this shock. It can be, for example, either fight or flight response. Some of us choose to attack when we encounter this shocking situation, and some of us choose to flight, to escape it. And so it depends on a specific personality. Also, there are different types of a flight response. We can either escape physically, and just to leave the place or to leave this marriage, and just to remove ourselves physically away from this traumatic place or this traumatic situation. And some people unconsciously choose to escape within their themselves, just to shut down and to take this trauma deep within. And sometimes it brings to real loneliness when if it's your typical response to a shocking and traumatic event, and sometimes you don't know what your response is, until you really encounter this situation. So if you are one of these people who tend to internalize it and to deal with it by yourself, it could be more difficult as opposed to someone who chooses to share it and to talk about it, and even at some stage to try to talk openly about it with your partner, just to share your feelings, to share some of your traumatic emotional experience. These are just my thoughts.
Yeah, for me, it's very telling, and I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, Russ, and I think I would be in the same situation. I too would be very conflicted about this, where where your wife is in her journey now, and for me, it's quite telling that you are asking, you are like, is this a time to accept an apology? Do I accept it? So for me, that kind of looks like their internal conflict. Like, do I take it? Do I not? Is it enough? Am I convinced? I don't know if I'm using heavy words here, like, feel free to correct me, but like, am I selling out? Am I, what is happening?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I really just want to know if it's too little too late. Like I said, I've already gotten to the forgiveness part. Is it just not enough at this point to even make an amends, just because I've gone through all of this on my own, through my own therapy, as to whether or not she even needs to bother, if it feels like an empty gesture or what.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you've been able to understand what brought her to this point. What usually people have an affair or betray each other, not because they feel great, but because they are in crisis. So I'm wondering if you are aware of some crisis point then and what it was.
By her explanations, she said that I had been distant. Our intimacy was lacking, mainly on my part. Didn't mean I loved her any less, but just intimacy in general is difficult for me. So I can only assume she went to the first person or to another person to have that physical need met. It just so happened to be the person that she would buy her drugs from. And whenever she, was smoking marijuana, she was also drinking. So her inhibitions and, were much lessened, coupled with, the intimacy issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were to ask you, because many times, like I said before, I firmly believe that these sort of questions are so personal, in the sense that nobody can tell you what the right answer is. Again, I think you're modeling really, really helpful behaviors, in that not only did you go for couples counseling, but you're also doing your personal counseling, which is, I think, fantastic. So I'm glad that you have a space anyway, because obviously, this is not therapy, it's just like a podcast episode, but that you have the space and the time to really explore this, because it is definitely very important. So if you were to kind of say, what are the things that would be needed to be said for the apology to be meaningful? Like, do you have something specific that you're looking for?
Honestly, it's all in hindsight. The more I think about it, I would have loved to have had an apology 6 years ago, 7 years ago, while we were in, couples counseling together. Any time, but almost 9 years later. I kind of understand. I want to try to understand that at the time she was so ashamed and that she couldn't bring herself to apologize. But I wanted to hear it all the time. Anytime I got upset, anytime she, wanted to broach the subject, or I broached the subject, what I would have wanted would have been years ago. That's what I want now. I want that then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I don't know if this is what happened in your situation, but a lot of the times when we have a person who is close to us and who is having an addiction problem, whatever that addiction might be, they do get hopefully at least, they get help, they get attention, they get support as they should because they need it. What happens though a lot of the times is that the people who are around them and who have been affected by their behaviors, like you in this case, I don't know if they actually get that. So it's almost as if we also need, as a person who is close to them, kind of a validation for the difficulty that we had to go through, for the pain that we had to endure.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's what I'm also understanding in what you're saying, that this is maybe what I'm looking for, but like I've waited so long for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Without a doubt.
Yeah. So I think it happens at an advanced stage when if the person who has some destructive behavior becomes aware, first of all, of their harm to themselves, and only then they are able to see also the harm that they do to other people. Just be able to see other people also in their space. So in this respect, I would also like to, just as Angela did, I would like to support you, Russ, in what sounds to me like a path to healing. That you had a marriage counseling and you have therapy, and your wife is in a rehabilitation program. It seems that you as a family, as a couple, you are making really, really healthy steps. And one more thing that comes to my mind is that we are often tempted to judge a relationship by healthy standards, which is okay. However, if we have one or two partners in altered state of mind, for example, using or be that drugs or alcohol, or having some acute episodes of mental health problems, we cannot put this relationship like to judge it by a regular standard. We have to understand that this relationship is in crisis, and one or both partners are in crisis. So in order to mend this relationship, they need to get help, individual help, and then they can reconnect and then can bond together again and build a healthy relationship. So what I observed that many people do, I don't like the word judge, but I think it does reflect what happens there. They judge their relationship at the time of crisis as if it's things as usual, whereas they are not. And it's at the time of crisis betrayals happen because people just look for ways to deal with difficulties, with external pressures, and they also try to find more people to rely on. Sometimes it's being sexualized, but I personally don't think that it's the most important thing in betrayals. It's simply way for many people to express, they're wanting attention and they're wanting closeness. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I'm wondering, what is your communication like with your wife now? Like all these years when, having been to couples therapy and, getting help.
I try to be as open and communicative as possible at times. And we've just recently had a small issue where she wanted to separate, but she had, through her Narcotics Anonymous group, realized that it was her lack of communication that had brought things to a head. So I would say over the past 2 months, we've been communicating very well. And even before that, I thought we were communicating, but clearly not as much as I had hoped. But lately, yes, things have been much better.
Brilliant. Okay, that's really good to hear.
Yes.
I mean, knowing that communication skills is something that sadly we don't really learn a lot about, not in school, not in maybe many of us don't usually have it modeled by our parents. A lot of the times good communication skills is something that we kind of have to learn sooner or later through, usually the hard way. So it's really good that you're making an effort. That's excellent. Because one thing that, as an option that came up for me now hearing you say that, is I'm wondering what it would be like if, your wife came up to you and she did start apologizing, or, she is apologizing, and you spoke to her and you communicated exactly the difficulty that you're communicating here to us. So you're being, what would it feel like if you were very transparent?
That I'm afraid to find out. I don't know how well it would be received. I think that would put kind of a setback in our relationship a little bit, even though, we're both being completely transparent.
Right. Okay. And so if it never happens, is there a chance? Because you don't know, it hasn't happened yet. So I'm kind of trying to see the possibilities, right? If it happens and you discuss how you feel, if it happens and you accept it, if it doesn't happen, what would that be like, right? Because it's all kind of projecting in the future. We don't really know exactly what's going to happen.
Right. All the variables, really. I don't know how I would feel if it never materialized. I think I would still, I think I would definitely still harbor some resentment, because I have for the past several years. I think it would only continue, and it would possibly even exacerbate the issue.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see how that would happen. And I think that's a very human thing. It's a very honest thing, what you're saying. Absolutely. So does it then come down to how it happens?
I think the biggest thing was if it were to happen, period. I'm hopeful at least just to hear an "I'm sorry." But yeah, after that, I really can't say.
Yeah. Again, we are able to see how our actions influence the others only after we are able to see how they influence ourselves. And sometimes it's a long way to realize it. And another thing, Russ, there is this interesting dynamics in a relationship. Since any relationship is, codependent system, two partners depend on each other emotionally and financially, and in many different terms. So it creates a dynamics when one of the partners has strong feelings like resentment, anger, or one partner despises the other partner, then the other partner resorts to being distant, withdrawing, and just for the sake of keeping safety. So it's often a useful thing to identify these dynamics and to identify who chases who with strong feelings, to express this anger and resentment, and try to at least temporarily stop this chase and just to stay at one place, at the place of communicating, observing, listening, and sometimes it's really helpful, and it helps breaking this circle of trying to, for one partner to try to get something from the other partner, and from the other partner to withhold it and to escape.
Yep.
That is an excellent point. Yeah, always trying to be as mindful as possible of the dynamics, right, that are happening between two people and what role we take within those dynamics. Right. Are you still in therapy, or is it over?
Couples therapy, we finished that a long time ago, but I still see my own personal therapist. Yes.
I'm only asking just kind of see whether you actually have a place to where you can speak about this and where you can go deeper than we can here, right? Like that you have the support that you're looking for.
I do have support. I have a very wonderful therapist. She and I have been together for several years now, and I trust her implicitly.
Perfect. Very good.
Okay. Very good.
That's brilliant. And I think this is the perfect note to end, because you're giving such a hopeful message out there, Russ, and very real as well. Thank you. Real. Right. But since, we have another minute, any closing thoughts?
Oh, for me? I really hope that if anybody has relationship issues like I did with a cheating partner, that both parties can come together and try and work things out. You got together for a reason, and hopefully you can find that reason again.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you very much for your inspiring story and this inspiring conclusion.
Thank you.
It was great to have you here, and thank you for sharing what is a difficult story with us. Really appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You too, Russ. And thank you very much, everybody else who was listening. And any comments, suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Angela. And thank you, Russ. And see you next time.
Bye.
You were listening to the AB Relationships Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends and subscribe to be notified of the new episodes. If you would like to become our next guest, please leave your details in the form in the description. If you have any questions or would like to talk to the hosts, please also refer to the description.